Are you trying to max out your account in Brawl Stars? I mean, I imagine everyone is, but if you are, you gotta know what brawlers are most important to max out first. We're gonna rank every brawler from 1 to 22 on how important it is to get their star power for brawler success. Let's get into it. Now, as a Brawl Stars player, it's important to know what brawlers you want to invest your power points and coins into in order to max them out the fastest so you can get their star power sooner. Not all star powers are as strong or important as others. So we're gonna rank them from 1 to 22 based on that. Now, just because it's low in the rankings does not mean it's not useful. It's just not quite as important for that brawler to be really successful. But also, you probably want to know the quickest and cheapest way to get your account to max. And actually, I'm going to tell you that tomorrow and exactly how much money it will cost you, or if you're free to play, how long it'll take you to max your account. Now, starting out at 22, the least important star power in Brawl Stars, it's going to be pennies. Penny's star power is honestly really bad. Of all the ones, this is the one I definitely like the least, and I think needs a complete rework. It does not make any sense. Think about it. Penny's cannon has the longest range in the game, 12 tiles. You want to place it in places that's going to be really hard for the enemy to kill, really hard for the enemy to reach, but her star power is only useful when the cannon dies. And you honestly never want the cannon to die, and it's also random. So it's honestly not gonna have very many situations where it's gonna be that useful, so yeah, it's at 22. At 21, it's gonna be El Primo. El Primo's star power, he gets an extra 600 damage whenever he lands on someone with his super. Now, this is definitely useful versus tanks, but as far as how important it is for El Primo to be successful, it's really not that important. El Primo as a tank, he's got a ton of health, he's got a slightly faster move speed, but he's a short-range melee brawler. His super is mostly a movement super, and yeah, of course, once he lands in, he wants to kill them, but it's not that much damage, and he doesn't get that many supers throughout the game. As far as total damage throughout the game, this star power is going to be one of the least impactful of all the star powers. At 20, it's going to be Nita. Nita's star power sounds pretty useful, but in reality, it's actually not that much. The amount of times that either Nita or her bear gets that much healing throughout the game is not that much, and it's not a lot of healing. At lower trophies, it's gonna happen more frequently than not, but as you get higher in trophies, people are much more careful about killing Nita's bear right away. On top of that, they're much more careful about not getting hit and charging up Nita's super as well. It's not to say that Nita's bear isn't useful in those situations, because it is. It's making them use shots on it and pushing them back, but they're not gonna be taking nearly as many hits as happens at much lower trophies. So Nita's star power, it sounds not bad, but it doesn't get nearly as much use as you think it might. At 19, it's gonna be Dynamite. Dynamite's star power allows him to jump over walls, which is really cool, and if this was like a funness star power ranking, Dynamite would probably be #1. It's really awesome and really fun to use. It's also really hard to use accurately. You definitely have to practice it a good amount to become good with it. It can be definitely useful, especially in heists, but as far as how often it's that useful and how often you're able to use it accurately, it's not going to be that often. So it's a fun super, but not the most useful. At 18, it's going to be Polka. Polka's star power is whenever he uses an attack that hits one of his teammates, they get healed for 400 health. Now, this sounds kind of useful, as healing is always a decent ability, but it doesn't heal Polka himself. And Polka has a really slow reload speed. There are definitely times where you can hit an enemy and your teammate, but it's not that often, and you don't really get that much healing. The best time for it is when there's no enemies in sight and you have a teammate who can use it. That's going to be a really useful situation for it. But as far as how important it is for Polka's success, it's really not that important. It's slightly useful, but it's not really useful. At 17, it's going to be Frank. Frank's star power allows him to get an extra 30% damage for 10 seconds whenever he walks over the soul of a dead enemy. This can definitely be really valuable, allowing him to kill brawlers in one less hit in different situations, but of course he's not always able to pick and choose when he gets that 30%. You gotta be very careful about when you're picking up those souls, and the amount of times that you're able to use it reliably is not always that often. It's always like a nice bonus is usually what it is, as opposed to something you can rely on. At 16, it's going to be Pam, which is whenever she gets a hit, it heals herself and anyone in a really small vicinity around her. Any ally up 30 health for each hit. Now this can be definitely pretty useful, and it's more useful than Polka's, I think, because it heals Pam herself, and as a gem carrier, that's really important and really valuable. But it's not going to be a ton of healing throughout the game, and of course her healing station is going to be way more useful and way more important for Pam's success than any other thing. It's going to be a nice bonus, but it's not ever going to be something you rely on except versus tanks. At 15, it's going to be Shelly. Shelly's star power is whenever she supers someone, it slows them down for 2.5 seconds. This sounds kind of nice as a shotgun brawler, but as you get better with Shelly, all of a sudden your supers just completely destroy people more often than not. You're saving them for situations where you are going to completely destroy them, and really you almost not that often really need that slow. It's useful, but not that useful. I mean, it's going to allow you to get a little bit closer for that second hit, but a lot of times it's not that needed, and you probably would have gotten that kill either way, but it is a nice bonus anyways. At 14, it's going to be Tora. Tora's star power allows her to summon a black shadow version of herself that has about 2,000 health, small amount of damage per hit with melee, but is very fast, faster than Crow even for movement speed. So it can be really useful. Tora's super by itself, even without her star power, is really deadly, but add this on and it's even more deadly. It protects Tora from taking some damage whenever she goes in and supers people in close range. There's another 2,000 health that people have to deal with. Now, of course, if there's someone like Nita or Polka, they're going to hit through it, but still it can do extra damage to them. It can be another annoyance to them. It can even just keep on chasing them and be another thing that they have to deal with. You can definitely add on even more pressure to an already really good super. At 13, it's going to be Brock. Brock's star power allows him to set fire to the ground wherever his rockets land. And whenever enemies walk over that fire, it lasts for 3 seconds and they take damage every second they walk over it. This is definitely actually pretty useful and can add a good amount of damage throughout the game. The amount of times you're going to be using that as a pressure, making someone not want to walk through it, this can stop them from healing up or just make them take a little bit more damage, or you can use it on the safe and heist and it's going to deal a good amount more damage, or boxes in showdown, it can all of a sudden make a box take 1 less hit to take out if you have Brock's star power. There's definitely a good amount of situations where this is going to add a decent amount of damage or stop people from healing up throughout the course of a game. At 12, it's going to be Colt. Colt's star power allows him to have a little bit of a faster move speed, allowing him to move as fast as tanks. This is definitely useful in a lot of different situations. I mean, it's a passive star power. It's always activated, which definitely makes it pretty useful. It can allow him to dodge shots easier. It can allow him to get closer to enemies, allow him to get closer to objectives sooner or faster, or run away, retreat from enemies faster, allow him to be more accurate with his shots. There's a lot of different situations where having a faster move speed is really, really useful. It's not going to be amazing. It doesn't make him really fast, but it does make him a little bit faster, and it's definitely not to be underestimated. At 11, it's going to be Crow. Crow's star power activates whenever he poisons someone, which makes him deal 10% less damage. Now, this is especially important for Crow because he's such a low health brawler, so being able to take more hits is definitely really important. On top of that, it doesn't work for just him. It works for his whole team. It doesn't matter who that person is damaging, it's going to impact their damage 10% less, and Crow can damage multiple people, so it can definitely be really useful. And Crow, with a decent range and really fast move speed, it's not too hard for him to keep someone constantly poisoned unless they're hiding up behind a wall, and even then, at least they're not dealing damage to anyone trying to hide up and avoid you. At 10, it's going to be Darrell. Darrell's star power activates whenever he supers, allowing him to take 30% less damage for 3.5 seconds. This is definitely really important as a close range brawler that's going to super into your face. He doesn't have a ton of health like a normal tank would. Good amount of health, but he doesn't have a ton, and another 30% is really important. 3.5 seconds lasts longer than you would think. As far as interactions go, it's going to be the majority of the time for an interaction, so it's definitely really important, unless of course they escape and you're chasing after them. But even still, it can still be really valuable, allowing you to take a good amount more damage. You can take a decent amount of hits in 3.5 seconds, so it can definitely keep you alive a good amount longer. At 9, it's going to be Piper. Piper's star power allows her to deal up to 400 more damage every shot she does when she's in a bush. This is really important for Piper because it can allow her to have to do one less shot to get a kill on someone, which with someone who has the slowest reload speed in the game definitely matters. And you're gonna be using her in Bounty where there are a good amount of walls, and I mean Bounty is definitely her best mode and it's a killing mode, so it definitely makes her a good amount stronger in that mode meant for killing. At 8 it's gonna be Leon. Leon's star power allows him to move a good amount faster whenever he supers, and this is super important for Leon because obviously his super is a big deal for him. If he has an even better super, it's gonna allow him to get his next super even more and have a much bigger impact throughout the game, allowing him to go in different places around the map, allowing him to flank a lot easier and just be more sneaky. I mean, a lot of times people are starting to adjust to when and where a Leon supers and trying to pick and guess where they might be on the map, but if you have a super fast move speed, it's much harder to predict where that Leon might be. On top of that, this just gives people a much slower reaction time because all of a sudden maybe they have that notice that, oh, Leon's in my vicinity, but with that faster move speed, they're going to be even closer to you and dealing even more damage. At 7, it's going to be Bull. Bull's star power doubles his reload speed whenever his health gets below 40%. This can be really useful in a lot of different situations, allowing him to win a lot of different fights, especially versus tanks. This is so useful versus other tanks and anyone else he's in close range with. It's going to allow him to get 1 or 2 more hits in, and Bull, who does a ton of damage per shot, this can definitely have a huge impact, especially in Heist. I can't tell you the amount of times where I've just been low health in Heist and just dodging and running around, just going in circles around the safe and just dodging different shots and just dealing so much damage because I have that star power and I'm able to get in 2 or 3 or 4 more shots on that safe, and that can be such a big deal. At 6, it's going to be Spike. Spike's star power allows him to heal up to 500 health per second whenever he's standing in his super. This is really important for someone who's basically a glass cannon, someone who has a ton of damage per second but really low health, and honestly he wants to be in mid to close range so he can get direct hits with his spike and deal a ton of damage, and this really allows him to do that. He can heal up a lot. It really changes how you can do a spike. Also, it just allows you to get valuable supers so often. Even if you don't think you can get a good super damaging someone, you can just use it on yourself to heal up, and that's really valuable too. You can go from a really low health all the way to full health, and that can just allow you to be so much more aggressive and change how you play throughout the game. There's so many different ways you can use it. It just makes Spike super that much more useful. At 5, it's going to be Ricochet. Ricochet's star power makes his shots whenever they bounce go faster and deal more damage, 80 more damage per shot. This is so useful for Ricochet, especially the faster bounce speed. Once they bounce, they move faster, and this makes them harder to dodge, makes it easier to aim for them. They have less time to react, and you can react even slower and have a better chance of hitting them, and they deal more damage, and this works with his super as well. So with Ricochet, this makes a really big deal as, again, someone who's like a glass cannon who has that really low health, the ability to hit even more damage and be able to get that damage in quicker can be the difference in him surviving and winning a situation. At 4, it's going to be Barley. Barley's star power heals him up for 200 health every time he attacks. This is so important for Barley, and honestly, you can imagine too, this is gonna wind up with a lot of healing throughout the course of a game, but this allows him to just continuously attack. Even if he is mid to low health, he can just keep on applying that pressure no matter the situation, because he's gonna slowly start healing up his health with that star power. Also too, this star power is especially important in ticketed events. In Robo Rumble, you need that star power because you do not have time to heal a lot of times because Robots just come too fast. At 3, it's gonna be Jessie. Jessie's star power allows you to shoot her turret, and then it heals her turret up for 800 health, and that shot bounces off and can go to the nearest enemy. This is so useful for Jessie, allowing you to have this turret that can die kind of easily. Now it's really hard to kill because you have that star power. 800 health is a lot of healing per shot, and you can really keep that turret up and make it really hard to take down. On top of that, you can still deal damage with those shots that bounce off that turret and go to the next closest enemy. This is especially important for Jessie to really establish control whenever she uses her turret. At 2, it's going to be Mortis. Mortis' star power is he heals up for 1,000 health whenever he runs over the soul of a dead enemy. This is such a big deal for Mortis, and it allows him to, later in the game, as after a lot of people have died, it makes him really strong, as all of a sudden you can be attacking a Mortis and be like, oh yeah, they're 2,000 health, I'm about to kill them, and then all of a sudden, wait, why did they just get another 2,000 health? Because they just ran win over 2 dead souls, and 1,000 health is a lot of healing per soul. So this can be so useful for Mortis in so many different situations, allowing him to survive when you really didn't think he was going to. It's this immediate health that the enemy never knows when it's coming, and it can be useful in so many different situations. At number 1, what I think is the most important star power for Brawler success, it's gonna be Bo. Bo's star power allows him to see in the bushes out 6 tiles, and he shares that vision with his teammates. If Bo is good somewhere, this star power is honestly the reason why. Bo is good on those maps that have a ton of grass, and of course you can imagine why, because he's so useful. You almost never get surprised if you have a Bo with star power on your team. You can just have so much more vision, and in a map like Snake Prairie or Outlaw Camp, it can be so useful, just allowing you to always know where people are on a map where it can be really hard to know where people are otherwise. If you don't have Bo's star power, he is immensely less useful, but if you do have it, it can make a really big deal. Now, if you want to know how to max out your account as quickly and cheaply as possible and how long it will take you, make sure to check out that video over there, which will be uploaded tomorrow. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later.